What's up, guys? Back to another Konosuba video, and in today's video we are gonna have a tier list video. So this tier list is pretty much a quote-unquote beginner's guide to what you should work on for the trials of your characters. So this should be because you know, I was the one who made this tier list actually. Cough cough, I am Konosuba Assets on Twitter as well. I don't post as much as I should, but you know, if you're looking for the assets, eventually I will get around to posting them. Kind of hard to find them, but anyway, these should be all the weapons and ults. If you don't recognize them, it's probably because they are veneer. I think her name is Muru or Komeko's ults slash weapons, like the book in the bottom left, Komeko's unique weapon. We obviously don't have those yet on global, so I won't be ranking those, but for the ults that are out and the weapons that are out, I will be ranking them. Pretty much how I'm going to do it is such as, okay, so Cosmos ult, this one right here, pretend that's the 1.5 ult because, you know, obviously I'm not going to have two of the same ult icon. Unfortunately, I didn't think about that when I made it, but hey, bro, it is what it is. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. Content has been flowing rather well. You know, all the love and support is greatly appreciated. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's hop into the video. So I'm going to start us off with the weapons. I got a handy dandy you know, other tier list that has all the stuff, you know, Paragon, Eneraged Koala. I'll have a link to it. I believe, yeah, this is the gold one, so it is Paragons. Shout out to him. He's actually just goated for this because the information, as you guys know, is not the easiest to just have on hand right there. So, you know, even though this is his tier list, I like just having the information because he'll have like exactly what it does and the traits and all that good stuff. So easy. So, you know, go out and you know, give him a like and a follow as well. He makes content as well. But anyway, let's get into the video. So starting with weapons on who you should gun for first. The weapons are a bit easier because they're just one character and you're not going to be like, oh well, I don't have so and so this ult's not as good. But anyway, Cosmo. So Cosmo's weapon is the Chun Chun Maru Reborn. It has 164 physical attack and 40 luck. Has a 14% elementalist damage and a 10% increase of ultimate gauge charge. So this is pretty much Cosmo's go-to weapon. Chun Chun Maru, the one that you can craft for everybody, is technically better, but the ult charge along with his secondary ult is really good. So you'll probably just be using this on Cosmo anyway. At this time, there's not crazy Cosmos out. Oh, let's just scroll up a bit. I hope that didn't mess up how it looks. But anyway, okay, so we're chilling. So it's not super high priority. It really depends on how much you use Cosmo, but once like the really good Cosmos start dropping, you're gonna want this weapon. It's gonna be crazy. So I think, you know, it deserves an A spot for Cosmos who are out. Still really good, but it's not like, you know, must do it right now. Next up is Aqua. Aqua has a 138 physical attack and 58 magic attack. Notice how there's two of both. We'll get to that. The trait is 5% physical damage and 8% light damage. So the thing is, weapon's a bit wonky, but you know, it makes do with the light damage, physical damage, and then, you know, magic attack. Understandable. Some Aquas do have magical damage. I think this is still her best one because the scepters are pretty, you know, what is it? I think they just mostly just healing and their passives, whatnot. You'll have like, you know, your generic water, you know, thunder, elemental up ones. I still think this is the pretty much the go-to for Aqua. At this time, Aqua has some pretty good cards out. They're all like limited, unfortunately, but you do have them. They are pretty high. Like I said, this is implying you have like, you know, the right characters. Obviously, if your best Aqua is like a 2-star version, you probably don't want to go for Aqua's weapon. Keep that in mind. But I still think it is a very good weapon. Next up is Megumin Staff. Now, without saying anything, this is definitely an S. Probably one of the first weapons you want to go for. Has 168 magic attack and a 20% ultimate damage trait. Now, if you know anything about Megumin, you know she ults, passes out, and that's that. So why would you not want a 20% boost to your ult damage? That's why I think Megumin Staff should be high priority, especially if you are going crazy in arena or you just want the arena awards. Megumin Staff is a must. Next up, we have Darkness's Sword. Now, this is going to be a little weird for me. because I actually was able to beat the last stage of the dungeon with Darkness's sword. She has 162 physical attack and a 58 physical defense with a 7% magic and physical resistance. So for arena, this is not too great. EX arena, I guess, when the enemies are tankier, but for dungeons overall, very helpful when you need someone to tank. I don't think it's that bad. I think you can somewhat get by without it. So I'm gonna put this in A just because it is good for Darkness, and you can give your Chinchamaru to anybody else on that team who would actually just want Chinchamaru. So I'm gonna put it in A. These aren't gonna be ranked in order, by the way, but I do think that it is. I'll put it in B. I really want to put it in A because I think this sword is really, really good in dungeons because I've always called the Enigma Blade. I think it's also really good, but it doesn't give you the magic damage resistance as well, and it doesn't give you the whole 7% overall. It just boosts your attack, which unless you're running Damachi Darkness or her mask, she's not hitting anyway, so it's kind of counterproductive. But anyway, B or A. I think I'm gonna put it in A. This is just my opinion. If you really want to debate me on it, go ahead. I'm not gonna hold it against you. Next up, we have Chris's Dagger. So Chris has 160 physical attack and 2 agility. The trait is 8% physical attack and 30% if target is debuffed. So debuffed is like the lowered stats. You're pretty much always gonna have the 13%. I do think Chris's Dagger is pretty good, though the lack of Chris's kind of hurt it. So I don't think it's super high priority. Maybe if like legendary Chris was out, then it'd be like crazy good, but it's still a good dagger. So if you use Chris, obviously you'd want to make it, but just because of the fact that she's not super high priority for stuff, I don't think it's that great. Unlike units like Aqua, who, if you have unlimited Aquas, you're most likely going to use them on like maybe not every team, but almost every team if she can fit on it. Chris can't be set the same. Next up, we have Wiz. Wiz is probably the most, if not tied with Megumi, for most important unique weapon. If you don't have any Wizzes, obviously you won't know, but if you have any Wiz and you put this weapon on, she becomes an insanely good tank. There's 154 magic attack and a 10% magic attack bonus and a 60% damage absorption chance. So pretty much she takes damage and she has a chance to regain the health back. Makes her an amazing tank, especially since she can heal on her basic attack because she isn't dead, making it a very, very good option. Another reason why I was able to beat the dungeon because of this. Also, you can use this in arena to have Wiz tank attacks. All right, there. A little bit of yawn. Anyway, next up we have Union. So Union's Crimson Demon Wand is 164 magic attack and 15 magic defense with a 7% boost to magic and light damage. This is one of those weapons where it's a bit wonky just because of the fact that it has light damage, but I do think it's still Union's best option. So I am going to put it in A. Like I said, these aren't ordered, but most of the time with Union, you're just going to slap this or maybe Leviathan Staff on. Most of the time, I just throw it on a different one of my characters, but I still think this is still a very good weapon in general. The magic damage is nice. The light damage is kind of always relevant with her ult unless you're using the thunder one, so it's still getting a bonus from it, so I think it's worth it personally. Next up we have Iris. So Iris has 165 physical attack and 15 physical defense and 8% physical attack and a 7% ult damage. So pretty much it's pretty okay. It's not bad. Most of the time it's like, is it Chinchamaru or this? Chinchamaru is really good. I mean, it's alright because you can only have one Chinchamaru, and this isn't a bad weapon by any chance, but I'm gonna have to put it kind of low on the list. I'll put it in C just because if you have Chinchamaru, you're covered. Obviously you can only have one character, so it kind of hurts like the other characters. Like if you use Iris and so let's say Kazuma and you don't have their unique weapons and you have Chinchamaru, and you know, you give it to Kazuma. Like, unfortunately for Iris, she's not getting it, and her weapon isn't bad. I'm just gonna have to put it in C. It's not high priority. Just slap Chinchimaro on him if you have the weapons for it, or just like Enigma Blade. Like, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. But it's not bad. But it's not, you know, not priority, if you get what I mean. Next up is Cecelia. Axis Wand, 131 physical attack and 142 magic attack. Pretty beefy, not gonna lie. Then she gets the 8% magic damage and a almost a 15, a 5% water damage. So the stats on it are really good. The water damage is questionable. The magic damage is also questionable. I'm pretty sure her first ult is physical, if I'm not mistaken. If you make this weapon, bro, you're weird. I'm sorry. Just use any other thing, please. Just any other wand, whatever you want to call it, staff, scepter, whatever. I'm pretty sure they're scepters. Use anything else, please. Please don't waste mats making this weapon, please. I beg of you. Unless you're like the silly simp or something. Alright, next up is Aru. So Aru has 164 magic attack, 15 magic defense, and a 7% magic damage, 7% dark damage. So it's pretty much, you know, 1-to-1, just about Yunyun's weapon. I also am going to put it in A. It's pretty much down to who you use more, Yunyun or Aru, and you slap their weapon on the character that you know. If you use Yunyun more, get Yunyun weapon, slap your assassin staff, Leviathan staff on Aru, vice versa. Whoever doesn't have a unique weapon gets the other staff. Pretty much how it goes for them, unless they're obviously not on the same team. But you know, I feel like Aru and Yunyun most of the time are just like, you know, the same character in a sense. I feel like I use them equally, personally. Next up is Mitsurugi. So Mitsurugi does 164 physical attack and a 29 physical defense. Pretty nice. 9% physical attack and recovers 150 HP after every action. So that's pretty nice for the every action parts. Helps him stay rather healthy. I don't think this is a bad sword whatsoever. You know, Mitsurugi is kind of a good tank alongside Darkness. Not like with Darkness, but you know, they're like comparable. Darkness obviously is going to take a bit better than Mitsurugi, but Mitsurugi actually is going to do some damage. I don't think this is a bad weapon. Definitely deserves to be in A. I personally don't use Mitsurugi that much, but I know a lot of people were using Mitsurugi to beat dungeon and used him in arena all the time. So, you know, but if you use him, I recommend building a weapon. Putting him in A. Next up is Dust. So Dust, 10 dexterity, because you know Dust obviously can't see anything. He's got dirt in his eye. 162 physical attack, and then he has to trade up 8% physical attack, 13% if it's below 70% HP. If you make this weapon, I'm gonna have to smack you upside the head because you're just wasting your materials. Might as well restart your account. Alright, next one is the Wizard Rod for Rin. So she gets 145 magic attack with 3 agility, 8% magic damage, and 7% wind damage. So Rin is really good. A lot of people use Rin, you know, the 3 mages are Rin, Yunyun. They're like on every team basically. Rin's rod isn't bad. I don't think the agility is terrible. The wind damage, of course, is like eh. It does have 8% magic damage, which is, you know, better than Aru and Yunyun. I'm gonna put in A. It's pretty much comparable. Obviously, you know, they can't match how perfect Megumin Staff is with her, but they're still pretty solid stuff. Eventually, you'll have all of them, and then you're gonna have to be like, all right, who does the most damage or who's the most useful? They get the better the Leviathan Staff. I think the Leviathan Staff has what is it, 10 or 15 or 12? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it has a better like overall damage if you have it maxed. But it's like, you know, drop off's not terrible. So Rin, you get A for your weapon. Next up is Leah with her Meliotic Lance, apparently that's what it's called. Obviously, we're skipping Kameko because she's not out. Does 3 agility, 145 physical attack. She has 8% physical damage and 5% magic defense. So another weapon kind of like Darkness is where you get some defense. I personally don't use Leah myself, so this one is going to be a bit weird to place. Especially because her ult is bugged with the damage reduction stuff. I feel like it's not bad and the staffs aren't. I think I'm gonna put it in B. I mean, if you use Leah, you'd probably make it because the other staffs are just not great, but it's also, you know, hmm. And I'm being a bit nitpicky. It's not terrible. I honestly like cannot remember what the lances do because I just don't use like not like don't use lance characters. The fact that I just don't remember because they weren't good. I'm pretty sure one of them is like action taken, you get HP, which Leah's is better. I don't know, maybe it's just my bias towards not using lance characters. She deserves A. It's actually much better now that I think about it. I'm just nitpicky. Don't mind me. Anyway, next up is don't do that. Dancer's Wand, Cecelia. So 144 magic attack and 55 physical defense. Get the 10% magic damage and 15. Oh my god, I just want to buff them so bad apparently. 5% physical defense. So not too terrible. It makes her a bit tanky. I'm gonna put this one in B because it's kind of more of your choice. If you use her and you notice she's dying to physical attacks too much, you could make her weapon. Obviously, the materials aren't going to come out from the heavens, but you know, if you have the extra materials laying around and you want to make it, I feel like go ahead. I feel like you can be justified to use some of the other, you know, what are they, scepters, because these are different from like Aru's stuff. Anyway, kind of up to debate. I'm gonna put in B tier. B tier is kind of like, you know, you don't have to, kind of like, you know, niche purposes you can. So I'm gonna put it in B. Next up is Eric's Dagger. Eric's Dagger does 158 physical attack with 2 agility and has 8% physical attack, and if you're above 7% HP, you get 13. So it's not bad. HP is kind of sucks because 70% HP you get hit like once by anything that does any damage, and you're not going to be above 70. I mean, if you like Erica, you'd probably run it because, you know, but I feel like it's too close to the other staff to actually warrant much use. So I'm gonna put it in C tier just because it's not like top priority. Top priority, you can get away with using the other stuff. It doesn't offer anything crazy that you're not gonna get from using the other daggers. So it goes in C. Next up is Melissa's Dagger. So she gets 158 physical attack, 2 agility, and 8% physical attack, 13 if it has status ailment. So that's like poison and stuff. That instant's gonna put you in D. Please just use any other dagger, bro. Just use the elemental daggers. Please just don't use that. Next up is the Beast Fork. Mia does 154 physical attack and a 29 physical defense, 8% physical damage and 5% physical defense. Physical defense, I mean, makes her tankier. I feel like this probably just can go with this one. I'm letting my lance bias of I just don't like them affect this, and I'm gonna try not to. It's not terrible, it's not the greatest, but you know, makes her tankier to physical defense at least. So there's that. Next up is Wand of Life, Amy. 144 magic attack and 51 magic defense. She gets a 10% magic damage and 5% healing. The healing is actually not that bad. The magic defense, it depends. I feel like most of the time you're getting hit by physical attacks regardless. The 10% magic damage is kind of high. I don't think there's a ton of Amy cards out at the moment. The Dark one is pretty good. So I'm going to put it in B just because I'll be generous. I think it's not bad. Not bad. Definitely not bad. Of course, like I said, you can make the argument for a lot of these that, oh, well, Chunshin Maru or License Staff or like all these other staffs are actually better than their weapons. Well, it's like, okay, yeah, that is true. That is true. But you can only equip one of each. And, you know, it's not like they're handing you out like 20 Chunshin Marus. So I have to keep that in mind. Plus, this is a trial, so this is like separate. You don't have to worry about your stuff. So I think this is a pretty accurate, you know, tier list, in my opinion. Always feel free in the comments below to correct me on it if it's like, oh my gosh, actually, Cecilia's whatever the hell that thing is, this wand question mark is actually A tier because of all this with this Cecelia. Like, go ahead, you know, enlighten me. I'm not like an encyclopedia, you know. I'm just a guy who plays the game just like you. But anyway, that out of the way, let's get into the ults, because holy crap, this video has to be, yeah, 20 minutes already. All right, we're gonna speed things up. So oh geez, we need some water real quick. My throat is killing me. Let me pull up. Do we have ults? We have ults on here, Mr. Paragon. Aren't I tripping? Alright, so it looks like it is not. So I'm gonna bust out the other tier list from Eneraged Koala. So I'll have both of them linked in the description. If you want to check those out yourself, all the information is nice and tidy. Let me get a drink of water real quick. There's like nothing in there, so I guess I'm just dry throating it. Alright, so like I said before, these ults for the generic like Cosmos Drain Touch is going to be the 1.5 version 2, whatever the heck you want to call it. And then obviously their second ults are only second ults. So double Drain Touch does 100 I must hate Cosmo. 409 single target elemental damage and 25% party ultimate gauge charge. So that's not too terrible. It's going to be a lot easier to get these, and they sync with your affinity. So keep that in mind. Even though, let's say, Snipe, I think is personally way better. It's going to be a lot easier to get the double Drain Touch, but I'm just going to pretend like you guys just have infinite resources, and these are just like what you click on first, because, you know, for example, Megumin's railgun is super important in arena, and I feel like you should prioritize that, while the other ult is, you know, not bad. You know, I'm trying to, it's a little weird because certain things, at least with the weapons, they're all in the same spot. With the ults, it's a little wonky, so keep that in mind. I'm going off if you just have like enough materials just to get everything, because Megumin's second ult is going to be a lot better than your railgun for like a minute or two until you know, certain percentages. Obviously, if you have your character level 1 or affinity, like, what was it, 20 or something like that, and your railgun is like level 5, it's obviously going to do way more than the second one. So you're going to have to, hang on, let me just pull it up. Where's Megumin? So Megumin does what? Ah, they're not going to show me. Hang on, real quick. You're gonna hear the music change because I do have Konosuba up in the background. Alright, Megumin. Here she is. Okay, so let's see. So at level 1, the railgun does 532%, right? At max, the explosion does 662, right? Obviously, the railgun is critting, but this one just has a higher percentage. It's gonna have some stuff like that where obviously you're probably gonna get more damage if your affinity is maxed on some of the secondary ult. There we go. I just wanted to let you know that. So some stuff, you know, if I say this ult is better than this one and you go and use it and you're like, wait, I have way less damage, that is why. Anyway, enough of me rambling on and on. I could do this all day. This video is gonna be an hour long, so let me get back into it. So Cosmo's thing, 25%. I think it's pretty good, actually. I really like the ult charge process. Of course, it's going to be, you know, you have to get up Cosmo's ult himself, but it's not bad. Snipe, however, doing a tier 3 agility debuff, 355% single target elemental physical damage, and it only takes 8% to charge, kind of outclasses it. So I'm going to put this in S. I think if you use Cosmo, you need to get Snipe. Very, very good ult. Aqua, jumping through this, 349 single target light physical damage and a self tier 3 agility buff. Really solid. If you have the Danmachi Aqua, almost like it's just a must run. It does so much. Another is Sacred Create Water, a 260 AoE water magic damage, tier 3 physical defense debuff, and a small party heal over time. Personally, I use this to help clear the dungeon, just having another way of healing, and the physical defense was nice for, you know, characters who use physical attacks such as Aqua herself. I think it's on par with the God Blow version 2. Next up, Megumin. Pretty much how it's gonna go is boom, very important, railgun, more important, railgun is meta. You can't do more damage if you crit on the other ult, but the railgun is going to be way more consistent. Darkness human shield does a tier 3 self taunt buff, tier 2 self damage cut buff, and a tier 3 party physical attack buff, and a tier 3 party magic attack buff. Insanely good. If you're using darkness, you're gonna want this. Actually, for arena, I think it's like almost necessary, but it is bugged at the moment. Keep that in mind. So pretend it works. It's really good. Next up, Power of the Mass, 485 single target elementalist physical damage, which always hits a self tier 4 physical attack buff, self tier 3 agility buff, and allows you to land attacks. You only need 8% to charge this. While this makes darkness able to actually attack, most of the time in dungeons, you're gonna want to make sure she's tankier, and I personally think tankier over damage. Power of the Mass has never done too crazy amount of damage for me, and I just rather have my darkness take more hits. So I personally don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I'm gonna put it in B tier. If you use darkness for damage, you're gonna want this, but obviously this is just a general, you know, not everybody's the biggest darkness simp. It is what it is. Next up is Chris. So Chris's Wire Tornado has a high chance to bind. It doesn't matter what anything else does. Please do not get this ult. Or, I mean, you can get the ult, but just don't use it. It's not a priority, please. Next up is the Cross Hurricane. 260 AoE win physical damage, a party tier 3 physical attack buff, and a party tier 3 magic attack buff. Kind of weird. I mean, I guess the buffs are nice, but it's nothing insanely good, nor... that's kind of hateful. I'll put it in B, actually. It's not terrible. It is AoE, so it will hit everybody, but her first ult's so good that, you know, kind of kills the usage. I'm putting it in C, sorry, Chris fans. Next up is Wiz. So Wiz is a 236 AoE water magic damage and a tier 3 magic defense tier 3 magic defense debuff and a tier 3 agility debuff. If you use Wiz, you gotta get that ult. It is what it is. It's actually broken. It saves you so much with the agility debuff, and it lets you hit harder. Next up is Curse Vegetation, a 411 single target earth magic damage. So there's going to be a lot of these. I personally think they all go in A because it lets you use the character's ult on a different element. A good example is, oh crap, hopefully that doesn't go anywhere. Perfect example, oh hang on, boom. Perfect example is Union, who I'm going to jump to. She has a lightning ult. Obviously, she has her light ult that does the AoE 260 with a party tier 3 magic attack buff, which I'm gonna put in A as well. The lightning one is 411. It just does a bunch of damage. So if you're running a lightning arena or you're fighting a lightning boss, the lightning ult is gonna be pretty good. I'm just gonna put it in A as well. I'm trying not to put everything in A, but there's a lot of stuff that's just like, you know, if you have it, use it. You know, you're probably gonna go out of your way for it before a lot of other things, so, you know, preference on if you use Union, you're gonna want to get this as well. Next up is Iris. Iris is a 260 AoE light physical damage and medium party heal. Doesn't do as much damage as her other ult, but the healing is pretty solid. I'm going to go ahead and put it in B. Her another ult is 485 single target elementalist physical damage. It just does a bunch of damage, so I want to put it in A because actually, I'll put it in B. I feel like you can still like somewhat get away with that one's AoE. You know what? I'll put it in A. I'll put it in A. That's a good amount of damage. That's kind of Iris's whole thing. If you use Iris, you're gonna win an A. Next up is I keep scrolling on the thingy. Anyway, next up is Cecelia. So Cecelia on her access attack does a 272 AoE elemental physical damage, a tier 3 physical attack buff, and a tier 3 magic attack buff, a tier 2 agility debuff. This ult is kind of crazy. If you use Cecelia, you're probably, let me just move these real quick. If you use Cecelia, you're probably gonna want this. I'd say it's high priority, especially if you use her. Like I said before a million times, you know, if you're cutting different parts of the video, you need to hear this out. These, like, obviously, if you don't use these characters, don't go out of your way to get their stuff. You want to use them, you know, or you're like, okay, Megumin is relevant and like all this stuff. get hers first. Don't just see like, oh, darkness, this thing, I need to get that before anything else. It's like, okay, it's, you know, subjective to if you use the characters. Not preach that enough. Next up is the Goss's Axle 349 single target water physical damage, medium party heal, and tier 3 magic attack debuff. That's a lot of, I mean, the heal is cool, the debuff, all that. I mean, it's only really useful if you want the heal. So unfortunately, it's gonna go in C. The other ult is just crazy. Plus, you have to use a lot of resources on it. It's just not worth it. Okay, Aru. So 260 AoE dark magic damage, tier 3 magic defense debuff, and a tier 3 physical defense debuff. Don't know why it's both, but it's actually not bad. I use it for the magic defense debuff, obviously. It's just generally useful. Anyway, Shining Eruption 411 single target light magic damage. Going to also slide in A as it falls under the OP mage, gets a secondary element ult that does a lot of damage. Boom, Mitsurugi. Mitsurugi gives a single target elemental physical damage, 365, small party heal, party tier 3 physical attack buff. Really solid. The heal comes in clutch, and it still does a good amount of damage. Pretty much a must for Mitsurugi. Next up is a 260 AoE light physical damage, lightning, sorry, self tier 3 physical attack buff, and a self tier 3 physical defense buff. So the fact that it doesn't like taunt or affect everybody on the team and it's only him is kind of making it kind of crappy. I personally wouldn't go out of my way to make that get this ult, but it still has its somewhat uses, so it won't land in D with the rest of the useless ults and weapons. Speaking of useless, Dust. So Dust has a 302 AoE elementalist physical damage, tier 3 physical defense debuff, and a tier 3 magic defense debuff. He really likes to debuff an element he doesn't use, or not element, a magic attack type. Magic. Personally, it's like his other ult doesn't do that much. Man, I mean, don't got your way for it. It's okay. Next up is a single target win physical damage and a self tier 3 physical attack buff. It's a self. No, don't do it. The other one is way better. In fact, it's not even like that insane, his other ult, but this one somehow is worse. They just don't like Dust. Anyway, Rin. Blade of Wind is a 236 AoE wind magic damage, a self tier 2 agility buff, a party tier 3 magic attack buff, and a party tier 3 physical attack buff. It's a debuff, but I'm assuming it's buff. Yeah, so she gives herself agility, buffs the members, and still manages to whip out a pretty respectable amount of damage. Very, very good. Another A. Yeah, I know a lot of these are going to be an A. Very, very solid. She does a 411 single target dark magic damage, so just darkness ult, also putting in A. A is going to be pretty beefy because, you know, they know how to somewhat balance their game, and they gave a lot of characters good stuff. Next up is Leah. Leah does a party tier 2 damage cut buff and a party tier 2 agility buff. That is fucking crazy. The damage cut is bugged at the moment, but if it worked, I'm telling you, it'd be crazy. The next one is Rhapsody of Water, 260 AoE water physical damage, a medium party heal, and a party 6-second cooldown reduction. Pretty good. Low key, like, I think it's also an S1. Okay, this one's a little weird. I'm gonna put it in S, but there's an explanation for this. You're probably just gonna use the other one, the damage cut and agility buff, but this one is also really good because it heals you, 6-second countdown reduction, and does damage. That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Personally, I think it's S. You're gonna use that one or the other most of the time. It's just like, you know, I wish you could run both. Just pick one kind of thing. I do think it's really good, but you know, you're probably gonna use the other one. Actually, just because of that, I'm gonna put in A. I feel like you can't justify the usage of those items when you're probably gonna use the other one a bit more, but it's still really good. So, you know, if you like Leah, it's an S. Go for it. Next up is Cecelia. Cecelia has a large party heal and clears all status effects. Nowhere near as useful as her first ult, so this is instantly getting knocked down to C tier. Luckily, the 1.5 ults don't take too much. Next up is Rondo of Wind. It is a medium party heal and a party tier 2. Oh, well, there goes my the dog's going crazy, so give me a moment. Alright, I've returned. Hopefully the quality didn't go to crap. Anyway, Rondo of Wind, very, very good. Gives a 314% single target wind magic damage, a party medium party heal, and a party tier 2 damage cut. Very, very good, I think. Low key, if it wasn't for the damage cut being bugged, I would never ever use the other ults. Anyway, fortunately, it is bugged, so I hate it here. Next up is Erica. Erica has a 433 single target elemental physical damage and a high chance to haze. This goes into the tier of ever use it, or waste your materials on it, unless you're weird like me and got it anyway. Anyway, Serenade of Fire, 236 AoE fire physical damage and a party 35 ultimate gauge charge. I put Erica on teams she probably doesn't deserve to be on, just because it's an easy, like, insta ult almost. If you have other units that boost gauge, of course, and your unit gets a kill, it's just like boom, you're done. Personally, I might overhype this ult, but I think it's an S tier. Okay, if you use Erica, this is a must get. It's really good. Next up is Melissa. She does a 433 single target elementalist physical damage and a high chance to poison. It is, excuse my language, fucking garbage. Next up is her AoE dark physical damage and medium party heal. Melissa, you're 2 for 2, darling. What the hell are these ults? The tier 3 physical defense debuff was like, it was good, it was a start, and then it just got worse. I don't understand. Next up is Mia. Mia does a 22 English, dear lord, 260 AoE earth physical damage and a tier 3 agility debuff. Pretty solid, actually, all things considered. Then she has a 365 single target elementalist physical damage, a party tier 3 physical attack buff, and a party tier 3 physical defense buff. Kind of weird. I don't know really where to rank this because I haven't used it. It seems like it'd be really good, but it is only physical, so I'm gonna put it in B just because I guess, you know, if you have magic enemy, it looks like it does quite a bit of damage. I mean, I could be wrong on this one. I think the agility buff is really good, but I mean, Mia fans, debate me on this. Put it down below. Which one do you think is better? I might be blind because I don't use her, but I feel like the Boulder Bomber surely is better, right? Anyway, last up is Amy. Amy, large party heal, clears all debuffs. I think I put Celios down here, same spot. Next one is a 260 AoE earth magic damage and a party heal over time. Party heal over time is cool and all, but like it really doesn't offer anything else, so just use the other ults. Everything else, I believe these are both Veneers, Emilio Rems, Muros, Bell, Eyes, Komako's weapon, Veneer's weapon, Mirror's weapon, and then Komako's ult. So that is everybody. A lot of talking. So I'm gonna say this again, you know, like, subscribe if you like the video. Support always helps. This tier list is based off my own opinions, so it might look different from other people's. You know, there could be some things you don't agree with or are wrong, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Also, this is going off of, you know, what you should prioritize. It also depends heavily on your characters and who you use a lot, and of course assuming that the damage cut bugs are fixed. But this is personally what I believe in. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching.